What's up guys, Deroir here with the third episode of Hype Time. Last time I talked about my hopes for the future of hard content in Guild Wars 2. This time I'll be speculating and talking about the thing that I'm looking most forward to in the upcoming expansion. The new profession, the Revenant, with the powers of legends in the mist. Now in the first episode I talked about my initial thoughts about the Revenant and how I was looking forward to playing as a character with a creation story that resembled a ghost. But I quickly realized there was so much more stuff regarding this new profession that I had on my mind, both related to mechanics and lore. Most of what we've heard about the Revenant has not been elaborated on yet, but here's a bit of what we know for sure so far. According to Colin Johansson, the design of the Revenant comes from two professions from the original Guild Wars: the Ritualist for its spiritual bonds with the other world, and the Dervish for its different avatar channelings of the human gods. Also, we know that even though this looks like a new weapon, when Colin was talking about specializations, he explained that these new weapons will not be entirely new. However, just new to the professions, as no new weapon types are being added with HOT. And so there's three options left for what this weapon could be: an underwater spear used on land, a staff used in melee, or a very skinny hammer. I personally hope that this will be the underwater spears, since there are so many cool skins in the game that never see the light of day due to underwater combat not actually being that big a part of Guild Wars 2. Now, a lot of people, myself included, has been speculating about how this profession will work, specifically the channeling skills. The Revenant effectively is a heavy armor profession that can channel the power of the mists. What that means is that you can channel the power of great legends from Guild Wars history to define the skills that they have available to them. So depending on which legend you as a Revenant channel, you will have access to a different variety of skills. For example, we know that channeling the power from the Dwarf King Jali's Iron Hand was said by Colin Johansson to make you a lot more tanky, whereas channeling the Demon Malix will give you the control over conditions and a lot more DPS. And this to me sounds like not only will you be able to deal out a lot of conditions, you'll also be able to remove and transfer from your allies. Now let's take a look at how these legends function in the original Guild Wars. First off, we have the Dwarf King. Now this dude is the one who performed the Rite of the Great Dwarf, essentially turning all dwarves into living stone, so as to fight off the destroyers who later turned out to be under the control of the Elder Dragon Primordus. King Jalis cared deeply for his people and would do anything to keep them safe. By profession, he was a warrior with hammer as his preferred weapon. Now with these things in mind, let's take a look at the skills he used. First we have his two shouts. One being To the Limit, which would yield adrenaline to himself and increase his maximum health for an extended time period. Next up he used I Will Avenge You, which when shouted would give him a good amount of health regeneration, lasting 10 seconds for every dead ally, which could round up to quite a high number, and also it gave increased attack speed. The third and last skill that I'll point out was Dwarven Battle Stance, which was an elite stance and gave him 33% faster attacks, plus 40 armor, and the equivalent of the boon we now call stability. Now does that sound like a tanky guy to you? Malix the Unyielding, on the other hand, was a Marganite overlord for the fallen god Abaddon. You know, the guy who doesn't like dancing to this day. Well, Malix too had a lot of interesting skills, such as Banish Enchantment, which removed all enchantments from a foe and disabled a skill for each enchantment removed this way. Basically a boon removal that would daze your opponent. Then there's Consume Torment, which removed conditions and hexes from him while healing him for each one removed. As for skills not focused on conditions, Malix had a lot of interesting mechanics, such as Shadow Smash, which would shadow step his foe in a random direction, or summoning shadows that would shadow step all his foes into his melee range. Ouch. I wouldn't be surprised to see new refined versions of all these skills appear for the Revenant. We already saw in the trailer that Rytlocks shadow stepped around to all his enemies. Perhaps this is one of the skills that Malix will let us use. I think the Revenant is going to be one of the most diverse professions that we've ever made in Guild Wars history, and it'll allow for a lot of different fun and unique playstyles as you master each of the legends. Now the million-dollar question is just how do we actually channel these legends? And what skills do the channelings actually influence? My initial thoughts went directly to engineer kits and elemental attunements, simply because those mechanics are very great at diversifying your profession. And so it would either work like the elemental attunements in your F skills, or simply be utility skills that could be switched to make for diverse combos of legends. The third alternative that I see as possible would be To have it like the Warrior's Adrenaline, where you'd build up so much spiritual connection over time, and then have the option of unleashing one or several different skills in your F-bar, depending on your weapon. My biggest hope though is for them to work like the elemental attunements. Having a heavy armor melee profession with that many skills would just be more than my brain could handle. My biggest fear though would be for the channelings to work like the Guild Wars 1 Dervish avatars or the Norn Elite skills, where you only have them available to you in a certain amount of time before having to recharge. I really hope the Revenant will have the same versatility and diversity that Engineers and Elementalists have, or possibly even better, like Colin said. Well, it seems that Eurogamer got part of the answer lured out of Colin in an interview. Channeling a legend actually changes out the entire back half of your skill bar, so your heal skill, your utilities, and your elite are all determined by the legend you're currently channeling, even if that means the Revenant will only have access to one weapon in combat. Just give me the endless amounts of skills that Elementalists have with their attunements. On top of that, it would be cool if the Revenants only had access to melee weapons, and then like Malik's be able to shadow step your enemies towards you, or just shadow step around like a crazy person to make up for the lack of range. Maybe through certain channelings you will have access to ranged attacks with melee weapons, like the Guardian Sword skill Zealous Defense. Hopefully we'll soon see more of Rytlock's new set of skills, as he will be the first Revenant in the Guild Wars 2 franchise. But then again, Rytlock has always been quite secretive, so who knows when we'll get our questions answered. Ever since the second book, Edge of Destiny, there's been quite a few mysteries surrounding Rytlock and his past. And the biggest mystery today is still how the hell he got a hold of Prince Rurik's sword, Sahathan. Now hear me out for a second. We know that Prince Rurik died approximately 250 years ago in the Shiver Peak Mountains and was reanimated by the Lich at the Fire Island chain, leaving Sahathan to be left in the ashes and ruins after we defeated him in Guild Wars 1. So how did Rytlock get this? Well, what if the events that unfolded in Season 2 of the Living Story wasn't the first time Rytlock had visited the Mist? What if Rytlock actually retrieved the sword from Rurik's essence in the Mist, just like he now channels all the other great legends? Or better yet, what if Rurik himself appeared before Rytlock to give him the power to break the curse that King Adalbern, his father, put on his people? Consider this. Rytlock would then be channeling the power of the true heir to the Ascalonian throne, and thereby making him partly heir to the throne. What? I mean, even the Ghost King Adalbern himself seems to recognize Rurik, his son's essence, when he first meets Rytlock.
I sense Sahathan's presence. Rurik, my son, you've returned!
Your son is dead. So is your kingdom. Leave us!
I know this is a bit far out. I mean, why would the Prince of Ascalon willingly give up his sword to a Char? Perhaps Rytlock never really was a warrior who would then come to switch profession. Perhaps he's always been a Revenant by heart, who till now just couldn't reach his full potential, but still have weak powers to communicate with some of the legends in the Mist. And so Rurik saw this opportunity to save his people from beyond the Mist by entrusting Sahathan to the one person that could actually help him: Rytlock.
You of all people should know the power of legends.
How else would Rytlock single-handedly have found out how to possibly break the curse in Ascalon if not from otherworldly help? Well, I guess that's enough speculation for now. Now, the mysterious Revenant profession is the one thing that I'm looking forward to the most. What's your most burning question for the franchise that you hope this expansion will give you answers to? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Until next time, I will see you in the mists.